What's up, friends? Hey, welcome to this episode of the podcast. Today with me is Mr. Daren Smith, who is an author and founder of Craftsman Creative. Daren, welcome to the show.
Man, thank you so much for having me. This is cool. And people should know that we set this up like less than an hour ago and
They
we
should
just
know.
clutch
Yes.
today. We made it happen for your audience. It's amazing.
I'm so sad. Jeremy Enns, who you know, who
Mhm.
introduced us, he was my first editor of this podcast,
No way.
and
I didn't
I
know
wish
that.
he was still editing the show because he would probably have a lot of fun with this one. But yeah, nod to Jeremy. Thank you for the intro, and
Mhm.
to Daren for being available very last
Of
minute. So
course. Worked out
uh,
perfectly.
I love it. So Daren, what is Craftsman Creative? What do you do? How do you spend your time? What's your dream, man?
Yeah, well, the dream right now is to help creators figure out how to go from artist or creator or freelancer or contractor to a six-figure business owner. And so that's really the goal of Craftsman Creative. I have a book that is, along those lines, but Craftsman Creative started as an online course platform, believe it or not. So right at the beginning of the pandemic, I released two courses
Oh wow.
because I was working on a TV show as a producer and got furloughed for the summer, found myself with some free time. I was like, I know what I'll do. I'll make courses. And then 2 years later, we've got 15 courses on the site, and it's become this really fun side hustle. And it's helped a lot of people. We just
Mm.
crossed 1,000 people that have signed up for courses or
Wow.
free previews or the email list. And so it's very, very fun and a cool thing to work on in between making movies.
That's pretty cool. Like, so what's your backstory? How did you get into filmmaking? And is that what you would call yourself, or what would you call yourself?
Well, it depends on who I'm talking to,
Yeah.
because sometimes they say I'm an author, sometimes they say I'm a creator, sometimes they say I'm a business owner. And, the thing that's the most fun to say is I'm a fancy freelancer. I'm a film producer. Um, so my background is I went to school for sound recording technology at Brigham Young University here in Provo, Utah, where I still live. I was in the arts all through growing up. I started band in high school and we performed and we did gigs and made money and it was awesome. So I went to school on a saxophone performance scholarship, believe it or not,
Oh,
which is
nice.
super fun. I still play every once in a while. But in school, I went through the process of like, I'm going to be a composer to I'm going to be a live sound engineer to like, I'm going to do post-production sound for movies because that is the most fun of all of them. And I would have a life. Like I would work nine
Yeah.
to five and have an office and that kind of stuff, have a life. So I did kind of all like the whole suite of sound things. I toured with Neon Trees and Imagine Dragons. They're both from here in Provo back when they first started. I did so many different sound jobs and got into film, started my own film production studio. Like I did post-production sound. Then I partnered with a director editor friend and he did directing and editing and visual effects and I did music and sound. And then I became a producer because we needed somebody who was going to like do client services and figure out budgets and schedules and crews and stuff. So I attribute that to my business partner. He just said, you should be a producer. And I was like, what's a producer? And he
Yeah.
said, you are, go. And I
Yeah.
figured it out. So like that was 8 or 10 years of my life. Co-ran a video production company. We did stuff for big clients like Comcast and Salesforce and BBC and ITV Global and all that kind of stuff. And we did a lot of small like local things. We did documentaries and industrials and all the stuff that us film people do when you have a small commercial production company. And then left that in 2017, became a TV producer. And then the last 2 years, I've been producing movies.
That's awesome. What would you say out of
It is
all of
awesome.
those things? Where have you found the most excitement?
Oh man. I mean, film is exciting. Like I've done two to date and I have a third film I'm producing this summer. And there's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of, we've never done that before. We're going to figure it out, which is very exciting, especially when there's huge budgets on the line
Yeah.
or safety issues or any of those things. It can be very exciting kind of in the more thrilling and like, oh my gosh aspect. But the TV show I worked on, it was called Relative Race. It was on BYU TV, or is on BYU TV. I did 4 seasons of the show, and it's pretty
Wow.
incredible. It's imagine The Amazing Race mixed with genealogy. So you've got teams of two racing across the country to find their relatives that they've been
my
looking for
gosh.
their whole lives.
Wow.
So, I mean, I didn't know that this was going to be part of my job, but like I became really good at finding people's family members online. So I found people's moms and dads and grandparents and aunts and uncles and siblings. And then it was up to us to figure out how do we navigate to all these different relatives over 10 days. You know, it's a very cool concept for a show and some of the most rewarding things ever. You know, the contestant from season 6, her and her husband, it's her birthday today, so happy birthday to Shay. But like, I'm still very close to them 2-3 years later, because I mean, I found her dad and her mom and her sisters and like crazy, crazy stuff. So that was pretty exciting as well, especially because you have one chance to get that initial meeting
Yeah. Yeah.
captured on camera in a real way. So that was fun too.
Oh my gosh, dude, that's incredible.
Yeah, pretty nuts. RelativeRace.com. Go watch it. I did seasons 4 through 6, 4 through 7, 4, 5, 6, 7, 4 seasons, 4 through 7, and I was the green team producer. So
Nice.
go Team Green.
So producing, filmmaking, creating, that's a lot different than writing a book about running a business, turning your what's the tagline? It's like turn your
Yeah, five-figure creators can build six-figure businesses. Yeah.
Yeah. So much different, two very different things, creating, but then also like helping educate people on how they can create. What was the, like, where did that come from? And why on earth did you feel like, yeah, this is something that I'm passionate about and I think I can help other people? Like, how dare you?
Yeah. Well, I'll take the second question first because there actually is, for me at least, there's a lot of overlap with the work that I do as a producer and the strategic work that I do working with creators. So
Yeah.
I'm a strategist at heart. Like I love spreadsheets, I love solving problems, I love optimizing things. And so it's basically I'm taking someone else's business in a movie, which is a small business that you spin up and spin down in 6 months. You hire 50 people, you spend $1 million or $2, and then hope that you have a product at the end. It's very similar to a small creative business where you're not spinning up to 50 employees and it's not a short-term thing, but strategically there's a lot of overlap there. And so my brain enjoys both equally. But the reason that I decided to kind of expand Craftsman Creative from just being an online course platform into kind of my brand, I'm now call myself a Craftsman Creative, and I use that website now as like my site, which also has courses as opposed to just courses. And the reason was because of the first movie I did last year. What happened was, I did it for half my normal rate as a producer because I wanted to be a film producer and I knew what the budget was and what they could afford because I was over the budget. And so I said, yeah, I will do that for this rate. And you know what? I'll do that other job and this job too. I did 3 different roles on the movie. I was the line producer, the unit production manager, and the production accountant, which you should never do all of those 3 things. LP and UPM is fine, but like adding on production accounting is a nightmare. So I will never do that again. But what happened is after I did that movie, I came home and realized, wow, that was a lot of work. It was 8 weeks of 80+ hour weeks. I was gone for like 5 of those weeks. Even though I live here in Provo, Utah, and we were filming in Park City, I was staying in Park City because it didn't make sense for me to drive an hour and 15 minutes to and from each day after filming and working for 16 hours. So I stayed up there. I was basically gone from my family for 5 weeks, and I have a wife and 3 boys, and I love my family. I don't want to be gone for 5, 6, 7 weeks at a time all the time. So I realized, okay, I can either be a typical film producer and try to do 5 to 7 movies a year, or I could figure out how to do 1 to 2 movies a year and have some other forms, other streams of revenue. And so I decided at that point, I'm going to really take a solid swing at this creative enterprise type thing. And the vehicle that I chose to enter the creator economy with was a book because I knew how to write. I'd already self-published 2 books in the past, just kind of for fun. They never really sold any, maybe 200-300 copies, but it was the process of like going through it and it was exciting. It was a problem I wanted to solve. So I wrote this book with the bigger picture in mind to have it be kind of an entry point for people into the world of Craftsman Creative, where we've got now over 1,000 people that are trying to improve their craft, trying to improve their business, make them more profitable, more resilient. And, my goal there is to help people be profitable and have fun doing what they love, because that's what I get to do every day. And it's pretty amazing. And so I want that for as many other people as I can as well.
I love that. That's so good. What would you say, you're working with all these people, having a lot of conversations, I'm sure. What would you say is the biggest or one of the biggest things that's in the way, from going from being a 5-figure earner to, building a 6-figure business?
Yeah, the quote that comes up most often in my content that I put out there, whether it's through my blog or newsletter or on Twitter or whatever, is this. It comes from Tony Robbins, but he says that success is 80% mindset and only 20% strategy and skills. So, what does that mean? It means that whatever experience we're having in our lives when it comes to our finances, our business, our clients, whatever, that's based on like the best that we can do. And so if we're not happy with where we are, then we need to kind of shift our mindset into thinking bigger, into thinking differently, into trying different approaches. And so it really comes down to mindset, the way that we are approaching our business. No, so what is mindset? It's a combination of like your beliefs, your thoughts, those things that lead to action, and the way that you kind of see yourself in the marketplace and the way that you see the industry that you're in. If you've got an empowering mindset, for example, then you can do anything. You can go and shoot your shot and try to land the $1 million client, and you can try to grow your business to 7, 8, 9 figures, whatever. But if you have the kind of limiting belief that says, well, the industry is so saturated right now, nobody's paying top dollar for this stuff, there's no way I could raise my rates right now. Well, that's a pretty limiting belief, in that it stops you in your tracks right where you are, and you're not going to grow beyond that. And it's the biggest struggle that I see most creators have, and they don't even realize it. And so what they're doing instead is they're looking for tactics and strategies and tips and hacks and all of those kind of things. So people end up buying a course on how to run Facebook ads to drive traffic to your website so you can get more leads. Well, okay, is that really the problem, that you're not doing that? Or is the problem the way that you see yourself and the offer that you've created and the clients that you're outreaching to and all of that? Well, it may be a combination of both, but it's the much bigger reason is the mindset aspect. And so while I do talk about all the different aspects of building a business, because you need marketing and sales and finances and audience growth and offers and all this stuff, I start the book with mindset for this very reason, because if you don't have the mindset in place, it doesn't matter what you try. You're going to try it. You're going to get frustrated by it because it's not going to work in the amount of time you want. And then you're going to go to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. Basically what I did for like 5 years of my career, trying to grow this video production company. And it never worked because I didn't have the mindset aspect in place.
Only took you 5 years. Lucky you.
Yeah,
It's funny. I just got off a call right before we got together, and I was talking about, having 2 businesses, a production company, and, this education business. And in my production business, I'm like, on a confidence level, I'm like 10 out of 10, 100 out of 100. Like I am like, I just feel like I could sell anything, and if people don't want it, like I have a mindset of like, okay, like no biggie, like the right client will come along. And I think, and then that like trips people up. They're like, well, oh, okay, so you're not going to come down in price. So, well, yeah, I guess we'll pay that. It just does something for the people that I'm having conversations with, and I can sense it, like this, like, and it's not fake confidence. I actually believe like we're really good. We love partnering with people. We love seeing them succeed. We think it's worth this much. If you don't, no sweat. Like there are people out there that you could pay way less money to go with somebody else. But if you really want to work with us, this is what it's going to take. And like people are like, well, how does that? that works so well for us. It has served us so well. And then in the world of education, where I've got a lot of people I look up to. Sure, there are production companies and stuff that I look up to, but in the world of educating, I have a lot more mentors and people that I want to be like. And so in that world, there's a lot more just I don't know, maybe I shouldn't charge that much for this thing, or maybe I shouldn't even do this thing because people don't, maybe I should stop this podcast. Do people even listen to this podcast? Like all of those thoughts. And it's so funny how, I'm this one person, and in two different businesses, I have very different mindsets.
Yeah. Why do you think that is?
I don't know. This isn't a coaching call, is it?
It could be if you wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, I think, similar, like I've gotten a lot of reps in the world of video production. I mean, I've been said no to more times than I've been said yes to. And, over the course of years, slowly, raising our prices, and then, maybe fast, we raise our prices because we're like, oh, we're offering something, this is worth this much. Okay, we can do this now. So I think part of it is just getting a lot of reps and our confidence being built that way. And then in the other business, I think and part of it is because the other business, I mean, it's I've thought for a long time, I'm like, well, it's just a side gig. It's side hustle. It is in my spare time, when I can, I'm passionate about it, but this isn't my main thing. So I still feel like very much like a student in that world versus somebody that's leading. I don't know. Just,
I mean, you nailed it though. There is a right answer, and you nailed it. And for the audience, what it is that when you have results, it improves your mindset because it changes your beliefs about yourself and about your business. So when you say reps, it's the same thing as results, right? You said, I charged this much. That person said yes. They got the results they wanted. I delivered, and they came back for another round, right? That series of events gives you tons of confidence. And then when you go to the next person, you're like, well, I know what I just did for them. So charging another 10% is not going to be a hard thing. Whereas this creator economy stuff, meaning you're writing a blog or a newsletter, you're doing a podcast, you have a weekly YouTube video that you put out, whatever it might be. First of all, you're kind of in a bubble because you don't necessarily have clients. You have audience, or you have readers or listeners, right? So it's a little bit more removed from the direct interaction, and people are reaching out to you because they want to hire you for something and give you money and have that happen in the next 1 to 3 months. Whereas someone in your audience might not buy your book or your course or your thing for years. So, and a lot of times you don't even know who that audience is. If they're watching you on YouTube, you have no clue who they are, what they need, how to serve them, what offer to put in front of them, etc. And so it's definitely a different beast. And so, like you said, getting those reps in, it's figuring out, okay, well, you almost have to reverse engineer it, right? You almost have to think backwards of okay, the result I want that's going to make me feel like I'm growing is this. And now I'm going to do some experiments to see if I can get the results for myself and my business. So you're almost artificially independent of having clients or having actual dollars come in. You're going, okay, I want to double my listens to the podcast in the next 30 days. How am I going to do that? And then you start treating it like a business. You put in the reps of doing these exercises or these experiments. You go, well, that worked, that didn't. So you do a different one the next week and you compare the two. Well, that worked even better, or man, that was crap. Let's not do that experiment anymore. But you got to keep going. And then all of a sudden, you're not just a creator or an artist or a podcast producer. You are running a business. And so you completely nailed it. And it's such an important thing for the listeners to understand, is that the results is what will help you overcome that limiting belief, the uncertainty, the doubt, the fear of showing up and doing the work. That's how you overcome imposter syndrome, is you put in the reps and you get the results. Because when the results show up, you're like, dang, I'm not an imposter. I did it, man. Look at that. So it's super important for people to realize that.
Man, I love that. That's, well said. I received that. It makes me think back, part of my story that I've shared with people, for a bunch of years, as we were charging more and our films were getting better and better, there was a part in my own filmmaking career where I was like, I'm not gonna. I've gotten exponentially better only because I went from zero, knowing nothing, to like, wow, like look what I'm creating, to like, wow, like look what I'm creating, and I'm like, I can't level up as much as I have anymore. I can incrementally get better, but people aren't going to pay me more for, I might spend a year trying to refine this skill or this craft or whatever, but people aren't going to pay me a year's worth of education, me educating myself on how to do that.
Mhm.
So I had to decide, did I want to really go down the filmmaking career and continue to, do bigger things, although my revenue probably wasn't going to change that much, or really say like, what would it look like to really own this business and figure out how to run a solid business, and own that title of CEO, which was so,
Mm.
I did not want that on my business card. I didn't want people calling me a CEO because I'm like, I like filmmaker better. Like that's just like, that's more in a line. But as soon as I made that shift from like, I'm this freelancer and I've got people that are working for me. So maybe I was a solopreneur, but I didn't really embrace the business owner. I didn't like my employees calling me their boss. Like I just thought I was uncomfortable with that. But when I made
Mm.
this shift of like, I've got to, like, for my family, for our goals, for the future, for me, like not wanting to always be in the business, but maybe stepping away for a while, or, for as long as I want, I've got to become this word that I was afraid of, the boss or the CEO.
Yeah.
And even listening to you explain that, I'm like, yeah, I think there was that shift that, yeah, we were getting wins, we were charging more, but for me, it was like internally, I was like, I have to decide, and I'm gonna be a CEO, and honestly, that's things ramped up even more after that, and yeah, it's all making a
Okay.
lot more sense.
Well, I mean, just to keep going on that, because it's exactly right. Now people have heard it from two of us, right? So in the mouth of two witnesses.
Yeah.
But like, just to experiment on this whole mindset thing, if you're listening to this and you're a creator, what's the most you could charge per hour for your work? For someone to hire you, what's the top end that you could charge? My guess is most people are going to say something in the $150 to $250 an hour range. The idea that someone would pay them 500 an hour or 1,000 an hour or anything like that is just completely out.
Right.
That's not
Right.
reality, right? Now, if you needed to, you could, if you wanted to start thinking of yourself like a business, all of a sudden you're not thinking per hour, you're thinking project based. You're thinking,
Right.
okay, what's the value that I'm creating for this other business, for this client that's hiring me? And if you have a client like Salesforce that's doing a launch video and they're coming to you and saying, okay, we're going to do this big launch video for our Salesforce, Dreamforce, whatever their big conference is. We did one of these videos. And they came to us and they're like, look, we can't use an agency because we don't want to spend like 150, 250 grand on this thing. We need to come to you. And so what can you do this for? So we said, look, let's put together a thing. We'll put together a small crew. We'll do it because we have low overhead, yada, yada, yada. We came back with an $85,000 bid and we got the project. So how much did we make per hour? I don't actually know. I'd have to calculate that out. But we did it with 4 people. And it took us less than a month to like iterate, come up with a concept, shoot the thing, deliver the thing, etc., because they were rushing it, right? So divide $85,000 between 4 weeks and 4 people, and like now you're talking, I don't know what that is. I don't do public math. Is that 5,000 a week or something like that? You got 20,000 per person for 4 weeks each. Like, and we had our own equipment and we paid, they paid for travel and all this stuff. So like $5,000 a week, what's that per hour? It's different. It's just a different way of thinking. And all of a sudden there isn't that ceiling or that limitation,
Mm-hmm.
because then the next year we went out and we were doing $150,000 projects. So could I charge $150,000 as an individual freelancer contractor for a month worth of work? No. So you got it. That's a very clear example of like the difference in your business and your finances and your revenue between thinking and approaching people like a freelancer or a contractor and approaching your business and your work and your interactions and your relationships as a partner, as a business.
Yeah, man, that's really powerful. I feel like I want to listen to that more than one time. So I'm hoping that if I mean, seriously, there's a lot of freedom in what we're talking about. If you can really just grab hold of that, value based, believing that, not having a glass ceiling, and just thinking like, what is this worth, and how can this help somebody, and know that there are people out there that charge $500 an hour, $1,000 an hour. I remember when I think our biggest wedding package back like almost 20 years ago, it was like $2,500, and my friend Brett Culp was speaking on stage at this event, and he's like, all right, I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to think of like the biggest package that you could ever sell, like how much would that be worth, and I was like, oh man, $3,000. I mean, that would be crazy, like getting, $2,000. I thought that was insane. But when somebody finally did, I was like, oh my gosh. But I'm like, 3,000, like what else can I add to get, somebody to spend 3,000? And he's like, okay, now you got that number in your mind. I'm like, yeah, 3,000. But like that, man, I don't know. He's like, now I want you to double it. And I'm like, $6,000? Are you serious? And then he went on to share that he had just booked a $20,000 wedding. And everybody's jaw hit the floor. We were like, what are you talking about? Like, nobody sells a wedding video for $20,000 yet. Here's this guy on stage. It's like, I've done it. So like, stop thinking that, $2,500 is the deal just because that's what everybody's doing. That's like the worst reason to like charge 25 just because that's what everybody else is doing. Like, believing that there's a ceiling that we've kind of, are living under that really shouldn't be there.
And we do it to ourselves. And I want to use that example too, just to even iterate again, because I think probably there's a lot of people in your audience who do wedding video or who do corporate video, right?
Yeah.
So the difference in approach between a $2,500 wedding video and a $20,000 wedding video, it completely changes everything. It's who you're marketing to, the actual audience, who's paying for it, how they find you, how you find them. So for example, I have a photographer that I did a course with, and he calls this area in the 2,000 to 4,000 range the pricing dead zone, because that's where everybody else is priced. So now you're competing on price, not on value. And how do you set yourself apart? It's really hard to do so. But like very specifically, if you are going to try and market yourself as a $2,500 or $3,000 wedding videographer, you're probably spending a lot of time on Instagram, on TikTok, on creating reels, on trying to reach the brides themselves, because they're the ones making the decision. Right. They want to see something pretty. They want to see themselves in that video 6 months or a year from now. And so you're being consistent online, you're showing up, you're doing the grind of marketing and content. And you're hoping that like out of every 100 people that DM you on Instagram, one of them can actually afford your rate, because most of them probably want to spend $500, right? So compare that to the $20,000 client. Now, they are not finding you on Instagram. They're also not Googling for wedding videographer Provo, Utah. Do you know why? Because if they're going to spend 20 grand on video for their wedding, they have a wedding planner. And that planner is making all the decisions for them. And so if you don't have an audience of 5 to 10 wedding planners that can each book you once or twice a year, you're not going to ever get booked. And so when you try the freelancer contractor mindset approach to the $20,000 client, there's this massive disconnect between reality and what you're trying to do, and it'll never work. So to escape that pricing dead zone, you have to completely take a step back and think differently as far as like, okay, my approach now is not Instagram. I'm going to put stuff up there because I want to be notified or noticed, and I want people to know that I exist and to prove that I'm consistent and I deliver good work. But all of my clients are going to come from these 10 relationships I'm going to build over the next year with the people who will actually hire me. That's a mindset shift. Nothing else has to change.
Dude, that is worth the price of admission right there. Seriously,
Which
that's
was free. So there you go.
yeah. Wait, we need to charge for this because that was really
Yeah,
good.
on this one, yes. On this one, we will charge.
No, dude, it's funny because I remember early on in my career too, like when I was looking at all these other like wedding filmmakers, and I'm looking at some of these guys who I know. I'm meeting them at these conferences. They're telling me how much they charge. They're not on social media. They have like hardly anything on their website, and I'm like, what is like my one friend Don? He was charging $10,000 for wedding films, and I'm like, that how, like, he doesn't have anything on his website. And it was all about, he did exactly what you said. He was friends with high-end luxury coordinators and venues, and those were in like high-end venues, not just like any venue, but like the ones that had $10,000 to spend. It's
Exactly.
like a game changer. And I talk to so many corporate filmmakers that are like, my market's terrible. Nobody will pay more than $1,000 for a video, but it's the same thing. It's like, man, like you're not talking to the right people. You're now, at this point, like you're hungry for work, so you're gonna do for 1,000 or less, because if there's competition down the street, you guys are just like, it's a race to the bottom, and then you don't feel valued. You resent your clients. You're annoyed at the person that's competing against you, because you're just fighting for this work that isn't even fun to do at all. Yeah, and you find
Yeah.
yourself in a spot where it's just like, this stinks. And I get a lot of negative emails of people just like, they want to throw the towel in because they're frustrated with not getting good clients and not working with good budgets. And yeah, of course, that is frustrating.
Yeah. But that's a mindset thing too. Are you going to blame the market and the industry and your competition and your clients for not paying, being cheapskates? Or are you going to shift and take responsibility for your current situation and look at instead what you want your life to be like, and then figure out how to get it? There's only one person that can do that, and it's you. It's not, Joe Video next door, your competition. He's thriving not because he figured out some hack from some course on how to run ads. He's doing it because he has a different mindset.
Right. Yeah. Oh man, so good. What do you have like what are some things that people do that don't really drive sales? Like what are some tactics or things that you've seen where you're just like, man, you're spending time? Because I would say, like, for me, that's it is really frustrating to just think like, okay, I've got a whole list of things that I've got to do today, and I'm going to start with like the easiest ones first, because I can just do those. Let me get in my inbox. Let me just manage a bunch of emails, because I know I can do that well. But reaching out to these people, like, I'll just say that for later, because I just don't feel like hopping on a call with somebody else, and like I just don't want to feel salesy right now. What are, in your experience, what are some of the techniques that actually work versus the ones that we just fill the majority of our time with? And guilty as charged. I mean, I've been there as well.
Dude, we've all done it.
Yeah.
We have all done it, and we're probably still doing
Yeah.
it. And so I can summarize it this way. It's focusing on being productive rather than being effective. And so a lot of times what we do is we measure ourselves against people who have already figured it out. So if we're just starting out, let's take someone who's been doing this a year. Maybe they just graduated school, and they set out on their own. They spun up their business. They have an Instagram account, a Twitter account, a Facebook, a LinkedIn, a YouTube. They have everything, and they've got a website, and they've got business cards, and they got everything built out, but they don't have a lot of revenue coming in. So what activities are they doing every week? Well, they're updating 6 different social media channels every single day. They're probably doing a little bit of cold calling, maybe not. Most people don't do cold calling. And they're being very productive, but they're not being very effective, because a year in, they don't have more clients. They haven't raised their rates. Their status in the industry hasn't been affected at all. And so instead, what we need to do is be very clear about where we are right now. Instead of measuring ourselves against someone who's 10 years or 20 years into the industry, has 1 million followers, and has $1 million in revenue every year, they've got their shiz figured out, right? Like, they've cracked the code, And if you try to act like they are right now, you're not going to be effective in your business because you're going to try to replicate, well, they're posting on Instagram 7 times a day and they're posting on Twitter 4 times a day and they have LinkedIn and they have a Facebook page and they have all this stuff. So you're going to be running around and you're stuck on this hamster wheel and you're never going to get anywhere. So the difference between being productive and being effective is realizing that what you need right now in your business, if you're not making 6 figures a year, let's just use that as a very easy delineator. Like if you're, say, 6 figures a year or 10 grand a month, whatever you want to use, if you're not there yet, what you need to do is figure out how to be effective in one singular way, right? Understand what's your core product, your core offering, who's your ideal client, and how do you get that ideal client to, first of all, understand that you exist. So that's called awareness. How do you get more people to know that you are alive and that you exist and that you could potentially solve their problem? How do you engage with them, whether that's getting on a phone call or collecting their email list or having them become a subscriber, whatever it might be? And then how do they become customers? If you don't have that figured out, that's the only thing that matters in your business right now. Because until you figure that out, you're never going to scale to the point where you've got employees and you've got 6 figures or 7 figures or 8 figures in revenue. None of that will ever happen until you figure out one channel that works. So what I recommend to creators that I work with is to pick one channel, first of all. It doesn't matter to me whether it's Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or Twitter or LinkedIn, it does not matter. And the people that say, well, you have to be on this platform because it's doing so much better at this and that, and well, it doesn't matter to you because you don't have 1 million followers, okay? If you have 100 followers or 500 followers or 1,000 followers, it does not matter because you're going to go out and manually create awareness for you and your brand and your business. So the very first thing is say, I'm going to put on hold the other 7 and I'm going to pick one platform and I'm going to go all in on it until I have a platform that is generating awareness for me every single day. How much awareness? Ideally, I'll just give you a milestone. You want to have 1,000 people coming to your website every week. 1,000? Holy crap. Yeah, if you're a creator, you want 1,000 people reading your blog post, checking out your website, checking out your offer, whatever. Why? Because you're going to get somewhere in the realm of like 1% conversion rate, depending on what your offer is. If you're selling an album or a video course or a book or something like that, 1% is pretty conservative. If you're selling a $10,000, $50,000, $100,000 offer thing, it's even lower because the gap between 0, they don't know you exist, so they haven't given you any money, and $10,000, that's a huge gap. Yeah. And so thinking that like 1 out of every 15 people that you talk to are going to end up buying from you is kind of unrealistic. Anyway, figure out awareness, pick one channel that you're going to stick with for a year, 2 years. I've set 2 years as my threshold. I'm not going to do anything else but post on Twitter for 2 years because I want that channel to work. I want to grow that to 10,000 people so that when I post things, more than 100 people see it every time. And so that if I have a new podcast or I have a newsletter or I have a new product, I can actually drive meaningful traffic to my website. That's step 1, awareness. That's only 1 of 3 steps. The next step is engagement. How do you get people on a phone or on your email list or getting your free PDF lead magnet or whatever it might be? How do you get something from them that's proving that they're engaging with you? That's taking a step from like being a random follower on YouTube to you know who they are. If you don't know who they are, they're still at the awareness stage. They're not yet at the engagement stage. So you want an email list or a phone number. How do you get that? Well, you got to figure it out, right? Like there's a million ways to do that. So you experiment and you go, okay, I'm going to try this. I'm going to put a call to action at the end of every YouTube video if YouTube is your platform of choice. And I'm going to say, if you want to learn how, or if you want us to do videos for your business, put in your email here or go to this website or give us your phone number or whatever it is. And you experiment until you find one that works. Ideally, you want something that's converting at like 5 to 10%. Okay, I'm giving you numbers because I think it matters, because I think too many people go, yay, I got 1. Yeah. So I'm good. Now I can move to the next thing. No, you need like hundreds of people coming into your world and discovering you every single week. That's how you create a business that has more demand than supply. Okay. So now that you have awareness, the final step, you have awareness, then you have engagement. And now how do you convert those people who have given you their phone number or their email address into customers? Well, that's where you transition from like marketing to selling, right? You need to get people on a call. You need to present an offer to them, whether it's over email or whether it's automated or whether it's manual, however you choose to do it. For years, the way that I did it was we were cold calling people. That's how I decided to get awareness, because I hated social media. So I would cold call 100 to 150 different business owners every single week when we needed work. And what was the result? Well, I would probably end up talking to, or at least getting an email address from, not an email address, but like a reply to about 10% of those. So 10 to 12 people a week would actually reply to my cold outreach emails. And out of those 10 to 12, maybe 3 would hop on a call, and 1 would maybe be interested sometime down the line. Okay, well, if I need a new client every week, then I should have doubled or tripled that number. But lucky for us, we knew, because we were going through this methodically and systematically, that 1 new customer a month was enough. There was one point in our business, our video production business, where we had just gone through like a mad dash of videos, and both my business partner and I were like knee deep or head down in editing and post-production. We were delivering all of the work to our clients for like 2-3 months at the end of like 2014 or 2015. So January rolls around and we go, okay, Christmas break's over. We did it. High fives. Crap, we don't have any clients. What are we going to do? I tripled down and I was emailing 500 people a week, and within a month had lined up over $150,000 worth of work, right? Because I knew what the numbers were. At that point, it was, I need this much awareness to get this many calls or engagement and this many sales. And it worked. So if you don't know what those numbers are for your business, then you're not yet in the mindset of being a business owner. You're in the mindset of a creator or a freelancer or a contractor, where you're thinking, well, I'm posting on Instagram. I don't know why people aren't hiring me. It's because you haven't done the work to figure out this journey that every single customer ultimately has to go through, from discovering you, awareness, to engaging with you somehow and becoming a client or a customer through that conversion. So that's how you need to structure your business right now going forward. Stop just randomly posting and being productive. Actually become effective. Realize that you need to just reverse engineer. If you want to make $10,000 a month and you charge $2,500 for a product or your project or your service, that's 4 clients a month. Okay, how are you going to get 4 clients a month? Do you need to talk to 10 people or 100 people or 500 people? What's the number? Figure that stuff out, and then you can start growing your business, because you know your numbers and you're treating it like a business, and you understand the journey that every customer needs to take.
Dude, drop the mic, walk away, man. That was really, really good. I will say there was a shift in my mindset and in our business when I realized that working with agencies, like clients that had clients, that closed the gap quite a bit, right? So instead of me feeling like I need to make 25 calls this week, if I land one agency client and they've got 4 or 5 potential clients that would hire us, that just makes that so much quicker and easier. So as you're thinking through, like, oh, I got to reach out to 100 car dealerships this month. Also think, take a step back and say, okay, are there agencies or are there groups that work with dealerships that could make that, if you make one really good relationship with that organization or whatever, you're going to get access to a lot more. So, dude, I love all of that. So
replace the word agency with wedding planner. It's the exact same strategy.
Totally.
The exact same thing.
Totally.
They have the clients that you want. They already have trust. So all of a sudden they just need a vendor who can help them double down. That year, 2014, 2015, when we did 30 videos in 3 months, that was an agency client that had 10 clients that needed video all of a sudden, and they had no in-house video team. So they knew me. They hired us. We did 30 videos in 3 months.
Dude, that's incredible.
100% agree. What kind of business do you want? Who do you want to serve? Yeah. Would you rather have a diversified approach of having new clients every month? Or would you rather have repeat clients that already have the relationships with the bigger clients that you're trying to get, and you just become friends with them and become a trusted vendor that's going to deliver and make them look good to their clients? Yeah, there's no right or wrong. It
Yeah.
just has to be a conscious decision of like, this is how I'm going to run my business.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, that's so good. How can people get your book, follow along with the stuff that you're doing? Man, I'm so glad Jeremy introduced us. I'm like taking us to school. This is so good.
I know. We can do a round two sometime because I love
Yeah,
this stuff.
yeah.
If you can't tell, if you're not seeing me on video, I get very animated about this stuff. I'm generally not that way, but like nothing makes me more passionate than like helping and serving creators who are trying to figure this stuff out and they haven't been able to. And if I can unlock one thing for them, it's like the biggest thrill for me of anything that I do,
awesome.
including making movies.
Yeah.
So that's a tall order. So like I said, my platform of choice is Twitter. So I'm on there every day, and that's like a very easy way to engage with me, hear the stuff that I'm thinking about. And, I share principles and mindset stuff and frameworks for like how to do this creator economy thing full time, like how to make a real living doing what you love as a creator. So Twitter's a great place to follow me. I generally, push people to craftsmancreative.co, which is my website. So it has everything on there. I put out a newsletter every Monday. I put out blog posts every Monday. I put out a podcast episode every Monday. So there's a lot of content and a lot of ways that you can engage with the content depending on your preferred way of doing it. So if you want to learn from me from courses or from one-on-one coaching or join my community where we do group coaching stuff, like that's all there at craftsmancreative.co. And for those that head over, there's a free 5-day email series that kind of walks through some of the stuff we've talked about today and kind of continues on that path to help you shift your mindset from creator to business owner. So go grab that. It's at craftsmancreative.co. Right at the top, there's an email form you can fill out and get that for free.
Dude, love it. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Any last thoughts? Any parting words?
I want a future that is full of creative people like the people like yourself and the people that are listening to this podcast or watching this show. So anything that I can do to help in that regard, I'm more than available to do so. So you can reach out to me. My email is Daren@craftsmancreative.co. That's just one R and an E for Daren. But like literally reach out to me. I love when I get to do these interviews and have these conversations with other creators. Like, you have the audience that I'm seeking to serve as well. So I would love nothing more than to hear from people, hear what they thought, hear what questions they have, and be able to chat with them one-on-one. I don't charge for that stuff. It's more just like, I want to help creators because I want a future that's full of art and movies and music and all of this creative stuff. And I'm worried that like if creators get crushed by pandemics and market crashes and NFTs flopping all over the place or whatever it is tomorrow, that we're going to end up with just a bunch of robots, doing all of our creative stuff, which is not cool. So nothing's more inspirational to me than like going to a concert and listening to music. I have ideas for blog posts and new courses and ways that I can tweak my business to help people better. Like, art is this amazing language that is unlike anything else. You can't say it the same way. You can't express it the same way except through art. And if we lose that, like, that's not a future I care about. So I'm very much just passionate about helping creators figure this stuff out because I want them to be around in 20, 30, 50, 100 years so that our world is just full of all of their amazing creations.
Woo! You heard it here first, folks. I couldn't have said it better myself. Daren, this is awesome. Super good to meet you. Thank you so much for sharing your gift and your passion with us. Good luck, and hopefully we can do something else together soon. I mean, maybe what are you doing tomorrow afternoon? Like maybe another last-minute podcast episode. Who knows?
There we go. No, you got my email now, so
that's right.
Yeah, you know that I'm clutch. I'll show up in the last minute. So
I love it. Awesome, brother. Thank you again so much.
Man.
Really appreciate you.
Of course.
All right.